let's use some more advanced drawing techniques for this little puppy dog. And so I'm using Sketchbook Pro today. And I like to use this software because it is so intuitive for a traditional artist. So what I have going on here is I have our sketch, and you can see in this layers panel, I have the sketch here. And then right below it, I have a blank layer. And I'm going to start off with this paintbrush, and it's like a watercolor brush. So you can see the opacity is dialed down to 90%, and I'm using a brown color. So, and I am going to be working on the layer below my sketch. So basically, you can see how that works. I'm just coloring in below. You can still see the sketch on top. And I mean, I'm trying to be neat and not go crazy because I don't want a ton to erase later, but I'm not, you know, being particularly careful either. I just want to get in a basic color. Now, if I was doing a more realistic dog and I wanted to um, make it look almost photographic, what I would do is I might use a complementary color on this base layer. And here you can see Sketchbook actually provides you with what the complementary color would be, which is this turquoise color right here, dark turquoise. But because I'm doing this guy a little more cartoony, I just started off with a base layer in the realm of the final color. So now that I've got that base layer done, I want to show you how this paintbrush works, because now I can go in and add some shadows just by painting again over that same base color. And I like this because it kind of speeds up my work a little bit. And you can later, I'll show you how to blend a little as well. But basically, I'm just going in here and adding some color where some shadows would be. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So now here I'm using a smudge pen, and this is part of the classic or the basic tools that come with the program. So this isn't anything special. Now over here you'll see this palette that I'm blinking on and off. This one helps me increase the size of the brush by dragging to the right. Okay, and dragging to the left, it makes a decrease. So I'm going to go with this medium size, and I'm just going to go in here and kind of blend together. And I'm not going too crazy here. I'm just kind of blending together where my strokes would come together, and just going around. Here we go, making them look just a tiny bit neater. Yeah, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go in now with my eraser, and this is also adjustable in size just by dragging to the right or dragging to the left. And I'm just cleaning up the edges here. All right, that's looking pretty good. All right, next, I am going to brighten this color up a little bit and maybe lighten. That's a little too bright. Drag it over that way. Using that same watercolor brush, I'm going to go back in and now put in, a base color for my little doggy. And maybe just a little smaller here so that I can get, you know, around the edges and the tips of his paws, down the middle here, on the top here. This is just basically, a color for the base, you know, not a shadow color, um, but, what the color of what the dog would be. And I mean, if I want to go really detailed, I could put even a highlight color in there and just go in on the spots where the shine from the natural light would be. Maybe just a little bit on the edges there and on the top. Okay, and maybe just on the top of his little toes there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. All right, and then of course, the next step here is to get a little more solid color. So I really like this tattoo inker copy. This is or a tattoo inker. It's a copy of a brush that's lower down. I downloaded a brush pack, and I'll try to find it again and put it in the comment section down below, or in the description box. But anyway, I really like this brush, and basically you can see it's a little bit of a jagged, almost like a crayon brush, so that could be a good substitute. And I am just going to go in and select that color again and maybe make it just a tiny bit darker and check the size on that brush. And now I'm going to just come in here and just put in those lines, just like that. And, just in the areas where it might be just a little darker, push a little harder. This one is sensitive, so I like that. You can get a thin line if you are light on your pressure, and a thick line if you're heavy on your pressure. And that gives me more flexibility and allows me to draw a little faster. Okay, you might be saying, well, what about his tongue? Why are we going to go with a brown tongue there? Well, no, I'm not going to go with a brown tongue. But I just wanted to get the base color in for the dog. Okay, let's get a darker color in for his nose right there. Okay, and let's go in here and find a nice pink color. Now, you may have noticed, basically, what I'm doing is I am tapping the color, and then I'm tapping on the color base color that I want. So red is my base color. Then I'm going to tap inside here to try to find a color pink that I like for his tongue. And I like that one. So then I'm just going to come in here and draw right over it. And then because his tongue is wet, I'm going to drag up. Drag up and the color gets lighter. Drag down and the color gets darker. So drag up, and I don't want exactly white, but I'm going to go in there. Oh, it looks like a nice slobbery tongue now. Okay, that's cute. Now, how about his eyes? So, basically, when you're drawing, you'll realize that eyes aren't pure white. So you go up a little bit, but not all the way to pure white, and you go in there and you add the colors. Now, you can see that I'm coloring over this part. Well, that's my sketch. So, and it's on top. So if I turn off my sketch, you can see what he looks like right now. And I have a couple of choices here. One, I could go in and just retrace all of my lines on the colorized version here on this layer, or I can just blend the two down and start working with them together. So that's what I'm going to do for this sketch. I am going to pull down, what I'm doing is putting pressure on this layer, and I get a menu that pops up, and then I pull down here and it says merge with below. So that's what I just did. And now with my same inker, I am going to go in there and just kind of retrace over my lines, making my, oops, I'm using the wrong color. Oops, sorry. Let me get a darker color there. And let's go back in and retrace over my lines, making them just a little bit neater where I like it. And then we're going to go back in with the eraser in a second. But you can see there, he's looking pretty cute. And we'll blend as well. Okay. So I'm just going around, and I am working super quick. You don't have to work this quickly. I want to be fast for YouTube, but you could always pause and come back. Now I am going to use my eraser and tidy up some lines where I want them a little more crisp. And now the eraser works the same way, okay? So if I want a bigger eraser, I drag to the right. If I want a smaller eraser, I drag to the left. And you can see why I like this program for the traditional artist. When you're used to working with pencil, paper, paintbrush, watercolors, this program works so intuitively. It's just like dipping your brush. It's just like exchanging brushes and getting a smaller brush. So I really like that because I learned how to draw using traditional art, pens, paper, pencil, charcoals, paint, watercolors. Those are some of my favorites. And, this just makes it so easy to transfer to digital art using this program. So that's looking pretty good. I cleaned them up looking pretty tidy now, and again, I'm going fast, but you don't have to. I'm going to use my blending brush again, and I am just going to go in there and kind of blend together some things. and make him. Now, the blending brush is tricky sometimes because sometimes, now I'll show you and then I can undo, but if you drag from the outside, look what happens. So you want to kind of make your blending brush a little smaller than the area you're working on. If you drag down from a dark area, it will drag down that dark color. So be careful when you're using it, but you'll fool around and you'll figure it out. When you play around with the tools, you see what works for you. Maybe this one doesn't work for you and you want to try a different brush to get that. Another way to soften up your lines is to use the airbrush. So maybe you'll choose to do that instead of this technique. I like this, and then sometimes when I'm losing some of my tones and I really want to keep those, I'll go back in with the watercolor brush again, or I might go back in with the airbrush just to soften it up but keep my tones. Okay, so I'm going a little bigger here, and just because I want to blend his face in really quickly. And smaller on the ear, of course, right? Because I don't want to lose my shadows. All right, and you can see how that works even to drag in colors that might be a little dull. Okay, he's looking pretty cute. Now, let's say we wanted to make him hairy. This is a custom brush. Down here, I have this brush in my palette, and this is like a charcoal brush, and I love it because it gives a dotted look. Um, and I'm just going to lock the layer, and then I'm going to check the size. That looks good. And I'm just going to go in here, and you can see how it makes him look a little fuzzy, like a puppy, right? I love that. And you can put it in anywhere you think that, you might see some fuzz on your little puppy dog, right? And then, of course, I can go even lighter and do some highlights. So as if his fur um, was catching some shine up here, I could go like there and there. Okay, and maybe a little bit on his legs. That's looking cute. Maybe a little on his head and his nose. And so that's a really quick, detailed colorization of this sketch. And I hope you enjoyed that. If you like a more advanced tutorial like this, then please let me know in the comments so that I can keep making them. All right.